Yo, what's going on? Mike from Mike Talk Sports. So not only is Anthony Richardson from Florida recently getting a lot of first round hype as a quarterback, but he's actually getting hyped up to be the first quarterback off the board. I hadn't really watched him too much this season, so I just got finished diving into his freshman tape, and man, oh man, am I pleasantly surprised. Anthony Richardson looks like a phenomenal prospect, and I completely understand why people want to take him with the first pick in the NFL draft. So one of the main challenges when it comes to evaluating quarterback prospects is the college in which they played football, specifically the offensive scheme in which they played football. You look at guys like Malik Willis at Liberty, you look at guys like Josh Allen at Wyoming. It's so significantly tough, and a guy that really comes to mind is at Oregon, Justin Herbert, where it's just so hard to gauge whether they have NFL qualities and NFL traits or not in terms of pre and post snap reading, in terms of footwork, and just overall nuances that an NFL quarterback needs to have. A lot of the times with prospects coming out, Justin Fields out of Ohio State comes to mind as well. It's genuinely impossible to gauge whether they have that trait or not, whether that's going to be a positive or negative coming into the NFL, because again, the offense does not ask them to do so. The college offense somewhat babies them and just kind of highlights their strengths and completely hides their negatives and doesn't even try to work on it. This is surprisingly not the case at all with Anthony Richardson at Florida. Florida surprisingly played Richardson kind of like an NFL quarterback at the time. So he had a lot of 7-step dropbacks on his film, surprisingly, a lot of 4-read throws where it was a simple mesh concept. He had to take a 3-step dropback and read the defense on a 4-read play. So he did that a lot in college, which was really nice to see. A lot of throws highlighting his anticipation skills, which is really nice, and a lot of pre and post snap reading assignments from Anthony Richardson. So now we'll get into some of the positives and negatives about Anthony Richardson before we get into some potential fits with some NFL teams, and 3 teams I really think are going to draft him, one of which I think would be a dream fit. Stick to the end of the video to find out which team I'm talking about here. But for starters, it's good that we got the positives, the negatives, the ugly, the bad, and the great, the awesome from Anthony Richardson. We really got the whole package in just 1 year. So I'd like to thank Florida for kind of making the scouts' jobs easier in that aspect. And I think Anthony Richardson should thank Florida because they really did not baby him. They said, welcome to the big leagues. This is what it's going to be like in the NFL, but with harder talent on the defensive side, with better talent around you. So that's a big positive for Anthony Richardson. So at college, he really showed the ability to read cover 3 zones specifically. He also did pretty good in man-to-man cover 2 zones. He's really good at stepping up into the pocket. He sees the middle of the field extremely well. I think one thing you notice right away on his tape is, damn, he's really good at those over the middle route concepts. He's really good at just taking that 3-step drop back, hitching on his last hitch, and then step up into the route and deliver a nice dig 25 yards over the field, deliver that post 45 yards over the middle of the field. We see his accuracy look really good over the middle of the field. So some of his other attributes that are really good, again, he's shown somewhat of an ability to have a pre and post snap read processor. He's shown somewhat of an ability to step up in the pocket and have a good pocket field. But really the main thing we talk about with Anthony Richardson is his physical attributes. It's like something out of a Madden created player. It's absolutely insane. He has a huge, strong arm. He's very fast and shifty. He's 6'4". His frame isn't so that you go, okay, he's kind of too big. He's kind of a statue. He kind of needs to take off a little bit of weight. That's not the case at all. He's more slim than big at that point, I would say. But I think he's a good frame. He's not small or skinny in the aspect of you say, okay, he's going to take an absolute punishment. He's kind of a Lamar Jackson frame, but taller than Lamar Jackson. So I'm not worried about him getting injured at the next level consistently. I don't really think that's going to be a significant issue for him. Obviously, he needs to watch how he plays. He needs to watch the amount of hits he takes. Even an invincible guy like Cam Newton, he's going to break down and get injured at some point, but he's getting a lot of Cam Newton comparisons. I don't see it at all, honestly. I understand that Cam Newton played at Florida. It's kind of a lazy comparison to make. I don't see the comparison at all. I think Anthony Richardson is so significantly better than Cam Newton as a passer coming out. It's not even close. I think as a runner, Cam Newton's a more powerful runner, but you say that's not really indicative of having a long NFL career. Whereas Anthony Richardson is more of that Justin Fields, Lamar Jackson-esque runner where it's more indicative of staying healthy and really helping your team win games week to week. It's more translatable from every single game plan going up against opposing NFL defenses. So I really like his running ability. Again, guys, his passing ability, I mean, the velocity on his balls on like his 15-yard out routes, it's top 15 in the NFL right now. He's going to enter the NFL with a top 15 arm. Not only does he have good ball velocity, but man, the distance his ball can go. Again, it's top 15 in the NFL right now. It's absolutely phenomenal. He has crazy arm talent with pretty good mechanics as well. His upper body mechanics are really good. When we talk about his weaknesses, I'll talk about his lower body mechanics and why I think his accuracy becomes a little bit erratic sometimes because of his lower body issues, but his upper body mechanics really good. And again, in terms of running the football, I'm going to go out on a limb and say he's a top 5 runner of the football at the quarterback position right now in the NFL. I don't even care. He is that good. He is so good at running the ball. He just has that instinctual kind of feel for the game where he knows how close he is to the sideline. He knows where guys are out of the corner of his eye. He's very instinctual like that, which you love to see. So getting into some of Anthony Richardson's negatives. So after listening to all of his positives, you go, why isn't he the best prospect in the last 30 years? He sounds incredible. I do love him as a prospect. He does have some negatives. I already alluded to his lower body footwork. Sometimes his accuracy, and don't attack me, I understand he's very accurate sometimes, but his snap-to-snap consistency with his accuracy, especially on the outside part of the field, this is something we see guys like Lamar Jackson, for example, struggle with. Those outside of the number throws, they're hard in terms of your footwork. We see sometimes with Anthony Richardson, he has erratic footwork, which causes a ball to be a ground ball on a, 5-yard out route. We see a ball floated over a receiver's head on, a 15-yard comeback route. And relating this footwork issue to another issue is his pocket presence. So I just stated that he has good pocket presence sometimes, but to the untrained eye, it would look like Anthony Richardson has really polished great footwork and pocket presence, when in reality, this isn't the case. It seems as though on every single play, no matter what, Anthony Richardson takes his drop back, and on his last hitch on his drop back, he plants his right foot into the ground, then starts moving up. And sometimes this is extremely beneficial, but sometimes it leads to quicker sacks where you look at him and go, okay, that was kind of your fault, not the offensive line's fault. Sometimes he steps up into the wrong pocket within the pocket. So with Anthony Richardson, it seems as though he kind of just in his head went, after every single 3-step drop back on my right outside foot, I'm going to plant hard, and then I'm going to start moving inwards into the pocket. Again, you need a little bit more nuance to the situation. You need to kind of adapt to the pocket each and every play, instead of kind of having the Anthony Richardson, I'm going to do this exact pocket movement every single time. That's a negative from him. Another negative from him is his post-snap processor. It does need work. One thing I did notice on his tape is inverted looks. So an inverted coverage look is basically when a coverage is giving you one look post-snap, and it is different from the pre-snap look. So let's say he gets a pre-snap read of a cover 3 robber where the corner is going to go into the shallow flat. And instead of going into the shallow flat on the post-snap read, he's going to drop into a cover 4 quarters. I think Anthony Richardson sometimes goes, oh, wait, I could have sworn I was correct on my pre-snap read. And he kind of gets too in his head in terms of his pre-snap read. I would like to have him kind of not focus too much on his pre-snap reads right now, kind of not really give him too much leeway at the offensive line, because it's so tough for young players, for rookies to do this, and say, you know what, Anthony Richardson, just focus on the post-snap read. Focus on if your post-snap read is there. You have such a great arm, so if you're a second late on your read, your arm strength and your physical ability can kind of make up for it for now. So you can come into the NFL as a day one starter and still have these issues, but have these issues masked by your incredible physical ability. That's kind of what I would tell Anthony Richardson. Instead of developing these bad habits in terms of being just absolutely determined and convinced of one look pre-snap and then post-snap it being something completely different. And we see a lot of mistakes on his film because of this. So getting into 3 fits I think would be absolutely perfect for Anthony Richardson. Number 1 is going to be the Indianapolis Colts, guys. I want to see Anthony Richardson on the Indianapolis Colts so bad. I'm not even an Indianapolis Colts fan. They deserve a good quarterback after having 6 or 7 bad ones after Andrew Luck. And why do I think the Colts would be such a phenomenal fit? They just hired Shane Steichen as their offensive coach, as their head coach. Who is Shane Steichen the offensive coordinator for? Jalen Hurts, who is an extremely similar prospect coming out of the draft, but he was even less polished, in my opinion, than Anthony Richardson is. So you have him go into the Shane Steichen system, run that Jalen Hurts offense. Man, it would be a match made in heaven. You have a solid enough offensive line in there already. The weapons aren't too good, but you have Jonathan Taylor to really lean into that read option early on. You have Michael Pittman Jr., who's going to take a lot of mistakes away in terms of the accuracy because he's a bigger body. You have a guy like Alec Pierce, who's pretty fast, a bigger body as well. I think the Colts would be an absolute dream fit with Anthony Richardson. Again, they have a coach now who knows exactly how to use his skill set, and I think that is the most important aspect when looking at fit for Anthony Richardson. Getting into the second team, I think would be a good fit. It's going to be the Atlanta Falcons. I know they just drafted a quarterback, but I'm not the biggest Desmond Ridder guy in the world. I think he's good, but he does not have the floor or the ceiling of Anthony Richardson, in my opinion. I think day one, Anthony Richardson would beat him out for a job. So they do have Arthur Smith, who I really love as an offensive coordinator. I wouldn't say it's a dream fit schematically, but I am so confident in Arthur Smith's ability to adapt his system around the players. He would get an elite player in here like Anthony Richardson. I think he has guys like Kyle Pitts and Drake London. They would really mesh those skill sets really well together, and I think it would be a solid fit with the Falcons. Getting into the third team, I think would be a solid fit. It's going to be the New Orleans Saints. They really need a quarterback. Let's see if they get Derek Carr or not. If they don't get Derek Carr, I really like Anthony Richardson. I think you kind of tear it down here, say, we got a rookie quarterback. Goodbye, Alvin Kamara. Goodbye, Michael Thomas. We are going to get good trade value for you, and we're going to rebuild this team with a young roster, with a defensive-minded head coach. We're going to bring a good defense in here. And you know what, Anthony Richardson? You can win games putting up 16, 17, 18 points a game your rookie sophomore season. And that does wonders for quarterbacks when their defense is so good, like the Saints have the potential to be. And you already have a blueprint here with a running, really physically gifted quarterback. We saw with Taysom Hill over the last couple of years in New Orleans that really work out well in certain packages. Now you get Taysom Hill times 30, times 50 with Anthony Richardson. So I think the dream scenario for Anthony Richardson, really tap into that potential early on, be a day one starter, get drafted by Shane Steichen in the Colts, and have your NFL career really take off.